Next, in our Roving Reporter segment, Huldah Thompson, our host, will be recognizing Diabetes Awareness Month. Her guests are Joanne DeNovio and Nancy Gildersleeve. Let's watch this one.
Welcome to the Roving Reporter segment of Impact. As you know, November is National Diabetes Awareness Month, and we want to shed some light on this disease that is affecting so many families in this nation. My guest is fitness expert Nancy Gildersleeve from the YMCA and Joanne DeNovio, Manager of Diabetes Care at Ellis Medicine. Ladies, thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Huldah.
Thank you. Well, we'll start with you, Joanne, as you are the expert in this field. And I just want to say thank you again for being on our show and for just coming out to talk about this disease that is affecting millions of Americans and so many families in the capital region. Now, talk to me about what exactly you do over at Ellis Medicine.
Well, at Ellis Medicine, I manage the outpatient center for diabetes education.
Okay.
So our main focus at the center is to work with people who are diagnosed with diabetes, to help them learn how to change their behaviors and live well with diabetes.
Okay, wonderful. Now, there's a lot of confusion between diabetes, the types of diabetes. There's type 1 and there's type 2. Can you shed some light and give us some examples, or at least tell us what is the type 1 and what is type 2?
I appreciate this opportunity because I think it's very important that people understand the big difference between both types of diabetes. I'll start with type 1 because that's the easier one. Type 1 diabetes also can be known as juvenile diabetes, and that typically occurs in young people.
Okay.
It's diagnosed at an early age, and the main problem with type 1 diabetes is the pancreas does not make insulin. And insulin is a hormone that's needed in order to use food for energy and to process sugars. Type 2 diabetes, on the other hand, is called adult onset diabetes.
Okay.
And over the years, we've known it to occur in adults. And type 2 diabetes runs in families. Typically, the person with type 2 diabetes has a first-degree relative with diabetes, a mother, father, sister, brother. Age has been a determining factor. There's risk factors that put you at risk for type 2 diabetes. And one of the big risk factors is weight.
Okay.
There's a different correlation between obesity and the development of type 2 diabetes. And the core issue with type 2 diabetes is that the person does make insulin, but the insulin cannot be utilized, cannot be used properly by the cells in your body that utilize sugar.
Okay.
So the main focus for type 2 diabetes would be lifestyle intervention and changes.
Okay, and that's where Nancy is here to step in as an expert from the YMCA. I know the YMCA has a new program, and we want to talk about that.
The Y is doing a YMCA diabetes prevention program. 79 million Americans are pre-diabetic right now, adults. What we're hoping to do through this year-long program, the program is 16 weeks in a classroom setting where we support individuals and in a group, and we teach them the tools to make healthy lifestyle choices. The goals of the program are 150 minutes of exercise a week and also 5 to 7% body weight loss.
Whoa.
So it's a 16-week program, and then after that, once a month for the remaining 8 months, we meet with them for ongoing support through a maintenance program.
Now that sounds awesome to me, because I mean, here you have, because one of the biggest obstacles, and for me, I know for my 20-something, my 30-something friends, is okay, we don't know, and that can be such a barrier, because you're eating stuff, you're not sure if this is the correct thing to eat.
Right.
You're doing stuff, you're not sure if that's the correct thing to do. Here we have a 16-week program where it's not all exercising, I'm sure.
There's no exercise, and we don't even talk about exercise until week 5.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the first 4 weeks, what are we doing?
We're talking about lifestyle changes. What are you doing now? What's not working? And, you know, talking about different ways that small changes can really just change, you know, your way of life.
That is unbelievable. And I don't know, is this a national thing or is this just in the capital region?
This is a YMCA national program. This is an evidence-based program.
Okay.
Individuals that have completed this program have reduced their chances of diabetes by 58%.
Oh, wow. And this is for an adult program. This is an adult program.
Yep, it's adult.
So what age are we starting from?
18 years old and
From
up.
18 years old and up.
One of the key messages I'd like to get across today is that adult onset type 2 diabetes can be prevented. It takes a lot of work.
Okay.
It takes a lot of effort on the person's part, but usually before you develop type 2 diabetes, there's months, if not years before, where we can diagnose pre-diabetes, a stage that occurs before the development of type 2 diabetes. I would like to see every person diagnosed with pre-diabetes to get the education and the lifestyle interventions they need, with such as Nancy's program, so that I don't have to see them in the diabetes center someday when they're diagnosed with type 2 diabetes.
So take a typical 20-something, 30-something young man or young woman. When they go to their doctor, what are some of the things that they need to ask the doctor to say, okay, am I at risk for being diagnosed with diabetes?
Well, the American Diabetes Association has a great paper risk test that you can take.
Ooh,
so that's available online if you go to diabetes.org. But, you know, as I say, if you're at risk, first degree relative, there's a African American, Hispanic, Native American, Indian. So if you have diabetes in your family, pretty much you're at risk. The main way to diagnose diabetes or elevated blood sugar is by a blood test. So it's important that everyone have an annual exam, physical exam, which includes a blood sugar, which typically it does. And at that point, if the doctor tells you your blood sugar is a little high, you know, a lot of times the doctor will say, oh, you have borderline diabetes. Well, you know, in my field, we say that's like telling somebody you're borderline pregnant. So when you have, if your doctor says you have borderline diabetes, that pretty much means you have pre-diabetes, which means that if you don't change certain things in your life, the natural progression will be to type 2 diabetes.
Okay. And I think one of those things has to do with fitness.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes, from what I've learned, of what I've read, is when you begin to put on the pounds and when you're not taking care of yourself in terms of eating properly, that's where you can fall right into this hole right here. Joanne, talk to me a little bit more about some of the simple things that you can do. Okay, you see this, you hear it, you're not taking, you decide, okay, the why is not for me. What are some of the things that they can do at home?
Well, you know, I think the whole idea of lifestyle change can be overwhelming.
Okay, all right.
You know, and my experience has been people pretty much know that, you know, what we're talking about is healthy eating and increasing activity.
Okay.
But what I find in my practice is we really working on why aren't you doing that? And why you're not is because it's too overwhelming to look at the whole picture. So if you can break it down into small parts.
Good.
You know, if you can start eating healthy, let's say start with 1 meal a day. Okay, so I'm going to start eating a healthy breakfast.
Okay. Okay.
And then, you know, after a couple weeks, now I'm going to include lunch. And, or then, you know, do that for a couple weeks. Now I'm going to try to 3 meals a day, Monday through Friday. And Sunday I'm going to, you know, eat what I want.
Okay.
You know, so those
and eventually
kinds
maybe
of,
step into the why.
you know, and, you know, what we find is as people start to cook and eat healthy, the food tastes pretty good. And so when you start to pull away from high fat, high calorie, sugary type foods, when you start to restrict that a little bit, after a while, you know, when you start to eat those again, they don't taste very good. So those kinds of small measures, exercise, you know, if for me, when I was 40 years old, I had to, my cholesterol was high. I had to start exercising.
Wow.
I hated that idea. I mean, I was not one to exercise, so I had to start with small steps. 10 minutes a day. People say, I don't have time to exercise. Well, you'll have time. You find time to do the things that you really enjoy doing.
True.
And now it's taken me many years, but I've gotten to the point where I'm at the gym. I was there 5:30 this morning.
Excellent.
I'm there 5 days a week, but I started small, and it took me years to get to the point where I appreciate what it feels like to be fit. And so you have to work through that hard struggle.
That is true.
Of incorporating lifestyle changes, eating healthy, moving more, and little by little you'll get to your goal. The other point I want to make is not only making the healthy choice, that's one thing, but the other thing is portion size.
I was just going to say that, right?
And, we have a handout at our center that says, for a list of all the foods you cannot eat now that you have diabetes, turn the page over. And do you know what's on the back? Nothing. Because a person with diabetes does not have to eliminate foods that they enjoy. What they need to do is start to understand portion size. If you want to have ice cream, how much is a healthy amount? So that once you start to diet, to me diet is a four-letter word. To me, living well with diabetes is learning how to eat well, on a consistent basis. Not eliminating anything from your meal plan, but just learning how to portion your food. And if you're going to have dessert, dessert spelled backwards is stressed. So, if you're going to have dessert, try to look at, are you doing it because you're feeding a emotional need, or are you doing it because you're at a party and you want to be part of the group? A lot of times what I'll do is I'll look at the dessert table and say, well, what is the healthy choice? I'm going to have dessert, but maybe I'll pick the half a cup of ice cream over the cheesecake.
Excellent. Now, Nancy, when does your program begin? Because we are heading into the holiday season.
Right.
This is like high stress, a lot of sugar, a lot of salt.
Our program begins on November 28th.
Okay.
And it is in the evening. And you bring up a good point. As we get into the holidays, people that are pre-diabetic are already struggling with healthy lifestyle choices.
Yes.
Now all of a sudden they have all of these things, these parties and these high caloric foods, and it's overwhelming. And I just wanted to mention that in this program, the 16 weeks, a lot of what is covered in those 16 weeks are all the things that Joanne just talked about. We talk about portion control. We talk about making good choices around the holidays. Every week has its different topic.
Great.
And then we get into the maintenance program, and those have topics as well, and handouts and so on and so forth, so that we can continue to support the individual for the whole, for a year. It's not just the 16 weeks and then they're out there on their own. We bring it back in and we talk with them and say, what are some of the barriers you're having? What are some of the struggles? Let's talk about them. Let's get you through that.
In closing, let's talk about the resources that are available to people in this area.
Okay, well, we've already talked about Nancy's program, which we said is evidence-based. What we mean by that is her program is based on a national study, the Diabetes Prevention Program, that proved that her program will affect change for people with prediabetes. Our program at Ellis, we do group classes for people with diabetes. We bring people together because the key message is you don't have to do this alone.
That is correct.
That the word illness, if you remember this, the word illness starts with I.
Illness starts with I.
Wellness starts with we.
Wellness starts with we. I love that. That is
and so
awesome.
If you bring people together, we together can get through this.
Okay, that is so true. And you, as you said, Nancy, the Y, the program at the Y is not an I program. It's a we program.
That's right. And together we can change life. We can reduce your risk.
And we need to, as you said, get out of our shell. We need to get out of our shell, become a part of the community.
Well, we need to do it for our children.
That is true.
Because the sad thing that I see in my practice, and I've been doing this for well over 25 years, is we're now seeing teenagers
My goodness.
with type 2 adult onset diabetes. We've had 10-year-olds, 13-year-olds,
Unbelievable.
15-year-olds. I've never seen that in my practice. And on a nationwide level, we haven't seen that. And it's because of this obesity epidemic,
Right.
lifestyle changes, people are not active, kids are not active, and people are not eating well. So for our children, we need to make a change now.
That is true. That is so true. Yes, because I find that where the adult leads, the kids follow sometimes.
That's right.
Absolutely.
You know, when they see mom and dad who are very active,
Absolutely.
because eventually mom and dad will pull them in. Because if we're going to the gym, we're all going to the gym.
That's right.
Nobody's sitting
That's
home
right.
watching TV. We're all going.
Right.
So,
and if you have diabetes or pre-diabetes, the best thing you can do for your children and your grandchildren is role model positive behavior.
everything begins with a decision in the brain to say, I'm going to make the change. And we say it, but if we don't have that support, sometimes we fall flat.
Because they don't know.
You
They don't
know.
know how to make those changes. They know they need to,
Yes.
but they just don't know where to get started.
Exactly, and sometimes you're not around the right people that will push you.
Right.
And so this is where you sit by yourself and you have those moments where you're watching Impact that you can say, okay, I have information now that I think is vital to me that I can use. And I hope that as you're watching this, you can see that Impact is a show that we are always finding ways to help you become more healthy. Ladies, I thank you so much for being
Thank you,
here.
Huldah.
Nancy Gildersleeve. Again, tell us where they can get more information.
They can get more information by calling the Schenectady YMCA or by checking our website at cdymca.org.
Okay. And Joanne, where can they get information from Ellis?
The Diabetes Care Program is located on the Ellis Health Center campus on McClellan Street. So if you call the main number to Ellis Medicine, they will direct you to our center.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you,
I
Huldah.
hope as you're enjoying your turkey and as you're enjoying all your Christmas goodies, that you do take the time to realize what you're eating and make the choice to eat healthy. I'm your roving reporter, Huldah Thompson. Thank you for watching. See you next time.
Proctors, bringing the best in arts, education, and entertainment.